Just like there is Gojo versus Sukuna in Jujutsu Kaisen, or Naruto versus Sasuke in Naruto, or Ichigo versus Aizen in Bleach, BLUELOCK is not different, having a highly debated inverse topic that big chunk of the community is split on. This topic in BLUELOCK community obviously being the treasure of Japan, Itoshi versus Germany, say striker Michael Kaiser. Both characters being new Gen 11 members and having great narrative importance in their respective arcs has made this topic who actually is better player between a very heated topic. As this topic has been most prominent based on Kaiser before he was awakened and Saya based on what he has shown during the U20 arc, I'll be mostly only going based on things that we see them do in their respective forms and performances. But I will touch on if Awakened Kaiser versus current Sai changes the result of it. With me I also have Alex today, go follow him on TikTok if you haven't, and with that we can start.
So the first category we will start off from is physical strength. Sai is able to physically keep up with U20 Berserker Rin in their last duel, while on the other hand Kaiser, who I think is more impressive of the two, uses his entire body to leverage into his right leg and perform the Kaiser impact, which is unmatched in terms of the speed of his kick, and stated by Noah that it even surpasses his own. Another good feat for Kaiser, which is a bit overrated by the fandom, but good nonetheless, is him not being completely bodied by Chris Prince, which is seriously impressive, as he's described to have the perfect body. And directly comparing him to Sai, Awakened Kaiser, though it is Awakened Kaiser, right? He doesn't actually get any muscle amps or anything. He's able to be summoned relative to a Berserker Rin, who should be considerably physically stronger than a U20 match. When it comes to running speed, however, this gets a bit closer. Sai is able to totally outpace the U20 BLUELOCK while suppressed, and even later Gearshift Sai is able to kind of blitz Isagi, as well as the fact that just in general he's complimented for his speed. When it comes to Kaiser, on the other hand, he has the 91 speed stat in the NEL, and he's able to keep up with base PhD Rin in the NEL, who should be faster than the Rin that we saw in the U20 match. Same Rin was actually able to keep up with post Gearshift Sai. However, when it comes to the speed on the ball, I would say Sai clearly takes it, as when he has the ball on his feet, he's able to completely perception blitz Isagi, and even the entire team just cannot stop him at all. Even Rin, who taps into flow, is just able to intercept the pass. No one is actually able to keep up with him in the speed when he has the ball. On the other hand, Kaiser, when it comes to the speed with the ball, it just really outpaces some Uber's randoms, right? Just the NPCs. Doesn't really have any speed feeds that would put him higher in that regard. So on the ball, I would give it to Sai. Off the ball, I think Kaiser is just more impressive physically than what Sai has shown. Stamina, this is a bit of a weird category because Kaiser is playing in the NEL, which only has 3 goals and a smaller field, so his stamina wouldn't be as tested, and it would be really hard to compare to Sai, who's playing the full 90 minutes on a much bigger field. Both use Metavision, and Sai in the U20 match and Kaiser in Barch and match respectively don't sweat at all, but Sai is the midfielder. He has to use Metavision more often. He has to control the field and just run around more, which is why I would personally just give it to Sai. I think Sai narratively has to have more stamina, but it's close either way. I don't think there's any real difference here. When it comes to shooting, this is pretty apparent. The Kaiser impact just makes him the best shooter in the NEL, obviously excluding the Masters. Some characters even get blitzed, like the Barcha goalkeeper, by the Kaiser impact. Though on the other hand, Sai's shooting is still not bad at all. It just doesn't compare to Kaiser's. He has perfect kicking accuracy, stated by Isagi, and Reo believes that a fusion of base Rin and base Sai would bring him closest to scoring goals. When it comes to passing and dribbling, I think these are the two two stats besides the shooting that are not really close at all. Sai, as the genius playmaker, has multiple playmaking and passing statements and feats to back it up, as well as dribbling. Kaiser's best dribbling is just getting past Nico. Meanwhile, Sai is able to get past the whole U20 team pretty casually, even before the gear shift. And in gear shift, he just straight up perception blitzing them with the dribbles.
Next up is just off-ball positioning, movement, and techniques. Kaiser's most impressive feats here are like trying to restrict Isagi's like direct shot with like his body press, as well as how Isagi describes like Kaiser's positioning during Arche game as like perfect ideals of BLUELOCK project. Kaiser is also able to keep up with like Shida's off-ball movement, which is basically unrivaled in the BLUELOCK. As for like Saya, is like brilliantly superior technique into restricting and defeating Isagi's direct shot compared to like Kaiser with just like simple body press. As for the rest, he has two very good positioning feats of able to read the field and position himself to get the ball before it can even land on the ground from being blocked or intercepted. In conclusion, I would probably give this to Kaiser based on feats of positioning and keeping up with Shida, but you could probably make an argument for Saya based on positioning he plays. But I would also argue that like how is it described in BLUELOCK in general, the position of a striker. Narratively, Kaiser probably should have better positioning feats. Next up is vision. This is actually pretty close category based on feats from set forms of characters. A good way to start the comparison is during Menshine game when Isagi is able to use meta vision. It's implied he either has same level of meta vision as Gearshift Saya, or is at least approaching this level of vision, which is important as Menshine meta vision Isagi has not one, not two, but three statements of having same level of meta vision as like Menshine Kaiser. So this establishes Menshine Kaiser and Gearshift Saya having around same level of vision. Next up, during Ubers and obviously PXG game, Kaiser either gets physically stronger or his vision improves, as he's able to read plays around the same time as like Ubers Isagi, who just is take to get physically stronger since the Menshine game. Even though it can just be since Isagi was in flow during Menshine, and when Kaiser scales to Isagi in Ubers, he's in base, it can just be that, but it's probably more likely that Kaiser just got increase in like vision, which makes sense. For Saya, we know from version 1 of like flow foreign during Q20 game, has same level if not higher level of vision as like Gearshift Saya, as established based on him intercepting the pass to Shida. This is important as during the corner kick, Saya raises the level and beats Rin's vision from the corner kick, which is even harder than how he normally passes or how Rin stops Shida. Saya arguably ramps up even more in the final duel against Rin, and Kaiser also has Predator Eye, which overall plays into versatility of his vision. In conclusion, I would say I think Sai has clearly better feats in terms of meta vision, even during Q20 game, as Kaiser also has like Predator Eye to add to his versatility. So overall, I would give the edge to Saya, but I could see, depending if you value like versatility with the Predator Eye over just the quality of higher meta vision. Next up is just like field IQ, football IQ, and adaptability. Sai quite easily takes football and field IQ, as not only is he portrayed to be on the same level as like Ego, if not above you in some aspects, which completely clears anyone in the verse. Other than Ego himself, of course. He's able to understand, awaken, and evolve Shida, and helping Green with his true ego compared to Kaiser when Isagi has to explain to him about like teaming up and like breakdown like multiple times. As for adaptability for Kaiser, the best feat he has is where he uses Isagi to get Lorenzo up him to score against Ubers. As for Saya, he has, I would say, the most impressive adaptability feat in the series of becoming a new Gen 11 midfielder in about more than like 6 months from playing as a striker his whole life, as well as dismantling Isagi's direct shot, not just by seeing it once, but just seeing the initial variation as he didn't even like see him shoot as Isagi was stopped by Aiku. Last up is like game impact and consistency. What I mean by both of these is game impact is quite like just impact on the game as it sounds. Just how much you make your team like win the match and create win conditions. As for consistency, it's able to reproduce feats and not be some one-time miracle feats, which good example for this be Nagi's 5-stage revolver volley. Kaiser's game impact is like extremely impressive, as not only he's the ace of Germany's strongest U20 team, and embodies the philosophy of the team with his impressive scoring ability, which is almost unmatched. As for his consistency, we kinda run into two main problems, which are Kaiser somewhat lacks the emotional constraints, as we see that a couple of times during the annual, where his emotions and ego get in the way, as well as his magnet shot is unusable unless the ball is like still, which unless it's a free kick, it has very slow, very like small chance of being the case. As for Saya, I would say game impact is his like greatest category, as his genius playmaking that can even like guide and evolve the entire team to like a new level, creates basically guaranteed goal chances and so on. As for his consistency, it's pretty much impeccable. Everything we see him do is like 100% able to be reproduced and plays into his like style of perfectly calculated solutions for like every scenario. In conclusion, for this, I think Sai confidently takes like game impact and consistency. Finally, we have like narrative portrayal, who is like actually considered a better player. I think this is pretty straightforward. Why it would be Saya? I'll go over each piece of evidence we have and explain why. First off, base Peak Jirin does not consider himself above U20 Saya. This is important as we see Peak Jirin being superior to pre-awakened Kaiser, to maybe even awakened Kaiser, as he not only stops Kaiser impact with some help and calls Kaiser too predictable, he also outplays Isagi and Kaiser at the same time. Later, he also, with Isagi, they kinda just easily stopped Kaiser, and later, base Peak Jirin just kinda runs through awakened Kaiser. Second off, Sai is considered the strongest player Rin has seen, which puts him over even awakened Kaiser, which is like pretty simple. First thing we see is that when Peak Jirin taps into version 1.5 of his Berserker flow, it's stated by Isagi that he's above everyone on the field, including Isagi and awakened Kaiser. This is also a clear distinction in this situation is different than U20 game, as Sai could stop Rin, but now nobody can, as Sai is not on the field, as Isagi says. And Isagi doesn't know if he can even replace Sai, which also implies version 1.5 Rin, that he reaches somewhat on the level of U20 game at his peak. Fourth thing is that after it, Rin also notes that Sai being the strongest existence, likely referring to U20 match, which still puts him over Rin's Berserker flow peak in U20, and over like version 1.5 Rin probably during the Bastard game. Fifth thing to go over here is scaling that Sai's Phantom presents. This is kinda important as Sai's Phantom scales above everyone on the field other than Peak Jiren after he unleashes his true ego and fully taps into his Berserker flow, and Isagi after he adapts further to Rin. This means Sai's Phantom would scale above even awakened Kaiser. Now, it's important to understand how Sai's Phantom compares to Sai himself. We know based on visual appearance, dialogue, and movements, it's very likely his U20 self. But we kinda run into like mini problem, which is despite Sai being stated the strongest existence in the match, and Rin having like every possible advantage to face Sai and block him, in U20, U20 Rin is still quite a bit inferior to his annual self, to like quite a like decent degree. Which we kind of into like run into three possibilities we can take. One, Sai's Phantom is U20 Sai, but exerting more than he did in U20 match, potential even flow version of that Sai. Two, U20 Saya we see is not much inferior to Peak G Berserker, in which we can take as Rin tapped into higher gear mentally, which is version 3, as against Bastard Munich, he only tapped into V2. Our third option, Rin watching Saya play for Real Madrid, which would still be below current Saya. I think all three possibilities are like possible and could be the case, but we definitely know that current Saya would just be above his Phantom. Last point I want to touch on is reflex play. We know that pre-awakened Kaiser is no way scales above perfect design of Ubers, as Lorenzo alone locks him up and gets blocked by like Barra. This is important as reflex play is stated by Lorenzo to be above the like perfect design, which he says is worth 100 million, in which actually happens with Isagi's value. This means a side can be able to perform reflex plays, and also stated in the Iggy's Bible he sees 100 million yen as like fucking change. Just reinforces Sai being above Kaiser. So as you can see, we have incredible amount of like evidence that either from fit or nerd perspective, U20 is higher. It should just be superior player to like pre-awakened, like potentially an awakened Kaiser just based on the narrative. So does Kaiser post-awakening and taking current Saya change the outcome of the topic? The answer is no. Yes, awakened Kaiser is easily more impressive than his previous self, as we see when he teams up with Isagi. But he kinda just still doesn't get above size Phantom, let alone current Saya. That will be way beyond, as he was not only playing against pros in La Liga to evolve, but also around 100 days of training from U20 match to U20 World Cup. Even though we covered everything that should be needed here, there will almost be someone in the comments that will bring up some sort of terrible arguments. So we'll go over like some misconceptions we have seen on scaling for both characters. The most prominent one is definitely U20 Saya was going all out and that he was in flow. First off, there is no indication he was going all out, and we know that during gear shift he stated to start at getting serious, and editor's note says he removes his limiters, which just means he raises into higher gear. And we know that he's not going all out as he keeps raising his level at least 2 times more until the end of the game. As for Sai being in flow, we know that's not the case as he doesn't have any glassy flow eyes, which signifies a flow, which is like shown probably like around 70 times in the series at least. We also know gear shifts is not how you would enter flow. That's how flow is explained. You need some sort of hard challenge that isn't too boring or too hard to enter into it. Which for Sai we know before gear shift already like was kind of bullying BLUELOCK players. So there was no some greater challenge he would need to tap into flow.
As far as the misconceptions are on Kaiser, the first one that people bring up is his new Gen 11 title and the introduction of it. People believe because Isagi says, oh, she's the new Gen 11 like Sai, that would like put him on Sai's level just from the get-go. Though I don't see how that makes sense. The new Gen 11 title is just being the best in your field, in your position, but even then we don't know when the voidings were happening, right? Just being because you're a new Gen 11 doesn't mean you cannot get cliffed over the NEL, which does happen to Kaiser. So that using that argument, I don't think it works, especially if you try to put him over Rin to then get him over Sai, but we blatantly know that Rin is just stated to be above Kaiser at this point. So when it comes to like Sai, as Clement said, Sai only became a new Gen 11 a few months ago, so before BLUELOCK, so would that voting happen even before the start of the series? So that like wouldn't really be relevant for current scaling. Being stated to be world class as well doesn't really mean much, doesn't put him over Sai, because as we know, base Sai in his introduction when he gets the ball from Aiku is stated to be world class, as well as the Sai Shido link up is also called world class. And the other misconception that I briefly touched upon with the Chris Prince is using Chris Prince's statement about him being the top rookie and like provoking him. Is this what the new Gen 11 player can do? The problem with this is that in chapter 193, Chris says that he only heard about rumors and wants Kaiser to show him what he's got. And during chapter 182, when Kaiser scrolls with his impressive Kaiser impact, he didn't even know just the extent of Kaiser impact, and he is literally shivering and looking at it and saying like, oh, is this what the new Gen 11 player is made out of? So nothing that you can use there would be valid, because we don't even know if Chris Prince watches other new Gen 11 players, how they play. He doesn't even seem to know about Kaiser, who plays the same position as him. So any scaling that you can get from him, whether it be physicality, the physical clash between them, or Chris Prince statements, I don't think any of those would be valid to put him over Sai per se.
Yeah, we just like went over like every category. Like we could probably and like possibility of like narrative misconceptions over this topic, as I think it's like fair, as it's like a pretty heated and debated topic in the community. But I would say that like I think it's pretty clear. Kaiser, at least pre-awakening, was never supposed to be a rival to Saya. Even like during Q20 match, there is a clear emphasis that like Kaneshiro puts on. And even post-awakening, I think at best you can is like compare awakened Kaiser to like Q20 Saya. As like I think current Saya, or like the Saya next time we see him in U20 World Cup, I think it's quite clear implications. He's just gonna be better than awakened Kaiser.